And welcome to the bright side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for joining us. 844-236-6010 is our number. 844-236-6010 is our number if you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program. That's why we're here. We love hearing from you. 844-236-6010 is our number on the bright side. We've got a very cool guest coming up at the bottom of the hour. Christopher Berglund is the author of a book called The Athlete's Way. He also is a prolific blogger. He's got a blog on the Psychology Today website. And I've been reading Christopher's book now for probably about 10 years. I keep multiple copies of it. It's about exercise. It's actually about the joy of exercise, subtitled Training Your Mind and Body to Experience the Joy of Exercise. Christopher is a scientist as well as an athlete. And as you know, if you've listened to me on this program or on in my presentations or in my videos, I think that the way to live your life is athletically. If you want to have a high-quality life, you want to live your life like an athlete, and we can learn a lot from athletes. If an athlete is doing something to take care of their body, it's something we all want to be addressing as well. And it's not just taking care of our body. Athletes understand the importance of taking care of their mind as well as the body. And that's what the Athlete's Way book is all about. We'll talk to Christopher Berglund at the bottom of the hour. And we'll take your calls in our second segment, 844-236-6010. If you want to purchase longevity products, go to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. Take a look at all our longevity products. And even better, if you want to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team, we'd love to have you on the Brightside Ben team for a one-time $30 fee. You can start a longevity business and be in business for yourself. Now is a great time to start a home-based business. You won't get in on the ground floor. That ship has sailed, but the first floor and the second floor are pretty good. Business is booming at Longevity. Checks are up, and we'd love to have you on the Brightside Ben team. Call 866-735-2470 if you want more info, or click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. And don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. I could tell you all about the importance and the relevance and the power of my Truth Treatment products, but I can't tell you as well as people who have actually used the products can tell you. And that's why you want to go to truthreviewed.com, truthreviewed.com, and check out our now over 500 5-star reviews about our Truth Treatment products. It's no surprise to me because I know how I make the products. All I did was take the water out and the silicone out and the vegetable oil out and the preservatives out and the silicone out and everything, all the stuff that's in a skincare product. 90 to 95% of a typical skincare product is not there for you. And what makes Truth Treatments different from every single product on the marketplace, from every other product you've ever used, is I took all that stuff out. It's not really rocket science. It's just lots of good stuff and none of the bad stuff. Lots of the stuff you need and nothing you don't. And that's the secret, and it's not much of a secret. It's pretty much common sense. If you're interested in checking them out, they're all up at truthtreatments.com. We do have specials, and don't forget to take a look at our reviews at truthreviewed.com, truthreviewed.com. All right, so I got a little crazy yesterday, I have to admit. I got a little say expressive. I'm trying to stay calm in this Corona crazy time that we're living in. But sometimes you just gotta take a deep breath. I do watch the news. If you're watching the news, you gotta watch it like a scientist, because man, not only are they dishonest and lying, as a scientist I know that they're lying, not intentionally, but they believe their own baloney. The best liars are the liars who believe their own baloney. And there's so much baloney out there, and the proof of the proof that it's baloney is the fact that they feel the powers that be feel like we need to be censored. YouTube needs to censor. Facebook needs to censor. The government needs to censor. Oh, YouTube, the president of YouTube, a lady named Susan Wachowski, she feels like we need to be protected by censorship. She says anything that is not approved by the World Health Organization is going to be removed. That's her philosophy. YouTube, her name is Susan Wojcicki. She announced that YouTube, this was back in late June, I believe. YouTube will remove any content that contradicts the World Health Organization on COVID-19. Why do we have to be protected from information? Well, it's the same reason why we feel like we need to be protected from a virus. Instead of working on our ability to critically think, our information gets quarantined. Instead of working on our ability to build our immune system, we get quarantined. And this is the problem. This is why none of this stuff. This is why the medical model doesn't work. The medical model doesn't work because it doesn't address causes. And this is something we talk about a lot on this program. We don't address the causes of our psychological distress. We don't address the causes of our physiological issues. From an emotional perspective, if we lose our job, if we can't pay our bills, if we have relationship problems, we're always focusing on the job or the bills or the relationship. We don't understand the nature of cause. And instead of looking at the one thing all of our problems have in common, which is us, yes, us, think about it. All of our problems, all of your problems have one thing in common. Jobs, bills, relationships, family, whatever it is, they have one thing in common, and that's you, or me, or us. Instead of focusing on where the one thing that all our problems have in common, we focus outside ourselves. And we are induced to think outside ourselves. We're not told to focus on the vagus nerve. We're not told, and by the way, Christopher Bergman talks a lot about the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is one of the reasons why I want him on this program. We've talked about the vagus nerve and what's now known as polyvagal theory and the parasympathetic nervous system since day one, since I started on this program. I learned about it in pharmacy school, and I learned about how important it is. If you have an emotional issue, if you have a psychological issue, if you have a mental health issue, you want to understand where your power is, and that's in our perceptions and in our neurologies. In the case of infections, in the current pandemic, quote, unquote, we're paying attention to the virus. We're paying attention to masks. We're paying attention to being locked inside the house. These strategies are distractions from the real cause, which once again is us. Yes, us. I've been watching YouTube and watching people who talk about how they got COVID and it's how terrible it is and how you have to stay inside, you got to wear masks, blah, blah, blah. Nobody says we got to focus on us. You got to focus on yourself. You got to focus on the foods you're eating. You got to focus on the supplements you're taking or the supplements you're not taking. This should come as no surprise when we think about the medical model. This is how the medical model operates. You have AFib, we'll cauterize your heart. That'll get it back in working order. Cauterize as in burn it. Get blood sugars too high? No problem. We got a drug that will poison your liver so it'll pump out more insulin. That's called metformin or glucophage. You got an autoimmune disease? No problem. Let's just shut down your immune system. This is the paradigm. This is the medical model. And it's not about individual doctors. I know I say it all the time, but it's important not to blame individual doctors. For the most part, they're good people. Perhaps brainwashed, understandably, because they've gone through 8 years of brainwashing in medical school and they're trained to believe that they know best. But it's not about the doctors. It's about a paradigm that doesn't work because it doesn't address causes. It doesn't address where the problem is. If you want to solve a problem, you got to solve it at the causal level, where it is caused. A viral infection is not caused by a virus. It's caused by a weakened immune system that allows a virus to proliferate. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be back on the bright side right after this. We're back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number, and don't have any calls now, but we'll get your calls this segment. We've got Christopher Berglund coming up at the bottom of the hour. Christopher Berglund has a blog at psychologytoday.com, and also a book called The Athlete's Way: Training Your Mind and Body to Experience the Joy of Exercise, which is kind of interesting because exercise is one of those things we all know we have to do, but there's sort of a resistance to doing it. But once you do it, you feel really good about doing it. And there's a certain joy that athletes have about the exercise process. If you go on YouTube and you see some of these professional athletes doing, especially NFL players, NFL National Football League players, they post on Instagram sometimes their workouts, and you could see these incredible workouts these guys are doing. And yeah, they get paid millions of dollars to do them, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that they really enjoy being in their bodies. There's a certain joy to being physical. We've lost that joy. We become a sedentary life. We've become sedentary citizens. We have a sedentary lifestyle. Sitting is the new smoking, as they say. And I wonder how much of this pandemic and this infectious crisis that we're dealing with has to do with the fact that we don't exercise as a culture, that we're sedentary as a culture. And this gets to the idea of causes. This gets to the idea of why are we blaming things outside ourselves when we have so much power to control how our lives show up inside ourselves. Why? Because people make money. Because people get power. They get control. When we lose our control, that control goes somewhere else. Control's like energy. And Thermodynamics, it said energy is conserved. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Well, power is the same way. There's a certain amount of power, and if we don't have it, somebody else is going to get it. Because power cannot be created or destroyed like energy cannot be created or destroyed. So if we give up our power, somebody else is getting it. How does that sound? That's what an authority is. An authority is somebody who takes your power away from you. That's why people don't like wearing masks, by the way. There's this battle that seems to be taking place between mask wearers and people who resent wearing masks. Well, the people who resent wearing masks understand that there's a domination that occurs when you're told to do something like wear a mask. People who don't understand power, who don't understand domination, those are the obedient ones that wear a mask, and there's this battle between the two. I understand why people don't want to wear masks, because they don't want to be dominated. Nobody wants to be told what to do without a good reason anyway. So we want to learn to take control of our power back, and one of the most important places is in exercise, but another important place is in how we eat and how we supplement. From Northwestern University, vitamin D levels appear to play a role in COVID-19 mortality rates. After studying global data from the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, researchers have discovered a strong correlation between severe vitamin D deficiency and mortality rates. Vitamin D deficiency is one of the most common nutritional deficiencies, ironically, because it should be the least common nutritional deficiency, because we should be out in the sun. Human beings grew out in the sun. Of course, we've been hoodwinked to believe we shouldn't be out in the sun, and that the sun is our mortal enemy. I did my moment of truth a couple days ago on the importance of getting sun. The importance of getting sun for the skin, by the way. Did you know the sun protects you from skin cancer? Did you hear that on the news? Do you hear that from the medical model? Did your dermatologist tell you that? The sun protects you against skin cancer because when sunlight hits your eyes, it stimulates the production of MSH, which is a hormone that produces the pigment melanin. That's right. Sunshine hitting your eyes turns on the production of melanin so you don't burn. It's an evolutionary mechanism. We evolved that way. We evolved to have mechanisms to protect us from the sun. The sun hits your eyes, you produce more pigment. Oh yeah, we wear sunglasses. Don't wear sunglasses unless you absolutely positively have to. You know, when you wear sunglasses, you make less melatonin. Wearing sunglasses will make it more difficult for you to sleep. Melatonin is anti-aging, so wearing sunglasses will make you age faster. Did you hear that from the medical model? Did you hear that from your dermatologist? Not that the medical model and your dermatologist, or not that your dermatologist is a bad person. He just doesn't know. And he believes that he does know. That's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. You can't tell a dummy that they're a dummy. The Dunning-Kruger effect says dummies will never know that they're dummies. That's a problem. You can't tell a dummy they're a dummy, and you can't tell a dummy what's right because they think they know. So while doctors may not be bad people, many of them, not all of them, many of them suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect. Look that up. Dunning, D-U-N-N-I-G, Kruger, K-R-U-G-E-R, the Dunning-Kruger effect. All right. I'm not done talking about this stuff. I'll probably be talking about it for the next few days, as long as I need to. Yesterday I mentioned the 4 pillars of our dysfunctional response to this microbial infection: the government, the medical model, the media, and the 4th pillar is us, the masses. The government, the medical model, the media, and the masses. And if you see somebody who represents the medical model on the media who's working for the government, you're in big trouble. Mindfulness training helps men manage anger. Love this. This is from Norway. The last few weeks have been particularly difficult for people living in a violent relationship. You know, domestic violence rates are skyrocketing as people are stuck inside the house. COVID-19 has taken its toll. People have lost their jobs. No one is quite sure what will happen in the economy. Many people are feeling uncertain about the future. Now we have a study that shows that mindfulness training treatment can work really, really well. And that's no surprise. Mindfulness is when we pay attention. You've heard about mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. It is now actually being accepted by modern medicine. Mindfulness is a way to lower blood pressure. Mindfulness is a way to heal from surgery. Mindfulness is a way to fight cancer or to deal with cancer once you already have it. Mindfulness is simply paying attention. And it's pretty ironic that something as simple as paying attention is something that we have to study and we have to do research on. Paying attention should be the easiest thing that we do, but we're so distracted. Something as simple as paying attention to your body can lower your blood pressure just as effectively as a beta blocker or calcium channel blocker with no toxicity. Mindfulness can help enrich your life. We live our life on the top of a circle, but that circle has a deep, deep hole that we can dive into if we have mindfulness that will completely change the quality of our life. On your skin, you have these circles called pores. And when we want to treat our skin, a lot of times we want to treat our pores, but what we don't realize is the pore leads to a deep hole called a follicle. And follicles are where you get acne problems. Follicles are where you get clogged problems. But a lot of people think that when they put something on top of the skin, that clogs their pores because all they see is the pore. They don't realize that there's a follicle underneath. Life is the same way. We live our life on the surface. We live our life on the pore. But when you practice mindfulness, you get a whole follicle that you can explore. Life becomes rich. Life becomes deep. And this is what mindfulness is all about. Now, because our mind we're so distracted, we have to actually train to be mindful. That's called mindfulness training. Mindfulness training is especially effective for dealing with negative emotions, for dealing with depression, for dealing with grief, and for dealing with anger issues. Next time you feel anger, stop and examine the anger. Pull yourself back. In fact, pulling yourself back is a great strategy for dealing with life in general. Always hold a little of yourself back to observe what's going on in your life. You'll find yourself much more powerful and much more resistant to dealing with negative emotions, to dealing with the negative emotions that are induced or that we're compelled to feel by our world. Hold a little bit of your attention back as you live your life, and you'll find yourself much more powerful. And you'll find yourself much more resistant to the ups and downs that are inevitable in our day-to-day lives. All right, Christopher Berglund coming up, author of The Athlete's Way. In our next segment, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. All right, we are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for listening. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7. On the archive page at brightsideben.com. Also the archive page at benfuchsarchives.com. Archives with an S. Thank you to Peter in the UK for setting that up. We got a search engine with all 9 years of programs. Since 2011, we've been doing The Bright Side. And you can search for various topics. You can also purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com and off my blog, pharmacistben.com and criticalhealthnews.com. And don't forget to take a look at our True Skin Health products. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, vegetable oil, silicone, water. Nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our True Skin Health products, all formulated in my compounding pharmacy for wound healing. Wound healing is beauty. Repurposed prescription products are now available at truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. All right, I am looking forward to speaking to our guest today. Christopher Berglund is a prolific writer, the author of a book that I keep multiple copies of. When I have a book I like, I keep multiple copies of it, and there's not many books I can say that I do, but I have Christopher's a copy of Christopher's book, The Athlete's Way, at work. I have one at home. I also have it in Kindle because it is an awesome book, and I mean, it is just packed with juicy tidbits of information. His blog is on psychologytoday.com. And quick story, Christopher actually knows one of the gals who works in my office, and she saw the book sitting there in my office, and she said, "Oh, I know Christopher." I said, "Man, I got to get him on the program." And long story short, Christopher Berglund is now on The Bright Side. Please welcome to The Bright Side, Christopher Berglund. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you so much for coming on The Bright Side. I know you know this, but I'll just say it out in public. I am a fan of your work, a big fan of your work. It's helped me personally in my life, and anybody, I highly recommend the book, The Athlete's Way. I talk a lot about the importance of living your life like an athlete. I always say, if an athlete is doing something to get better in their life, it's something we want to pay attention to, because life is an athletic event. We're all athletes in a way. Just getting our butt out of bed in the morning is an athletic event.
I totally agree. I mean, that was one reason when I titled my book The Athlete's Way, that's kind of what I was implying. I did not want it to sort of seem like a book just geared towards actual athletes, because I do agree with you that everything, how we approach our life, we learn a lot through the daily workouts we do, but we can also, everything is an athletic event to some degree.
Yeah, just getting out of bed and doing your day is an athletic event.
It's true.
We're all performers in a way. Life is a high performance thing, right?
No, it's true. I've been writing I don't know if you saw, but a lot of research. I started came out a couple of days ago about people being attracted to musicians who have personality traits that they identify with. And as a teenager, when I discovered running, it was right after Walkmans had been invented. This was a long time ago, like in 1980, about when the Walkman became a big staple. And it really sort of helped me as an athlete because I could put myself in the shoes of the sort of quote unquote rock stars that I admired. So it's, I think through music, it's a really easy way for all of us to identify character traits that we relate to and then aspire towards, and then through the workout, for me, still to this day, I'll put on songs that, that represent who I kind of want to be in my life, and it can sort of create a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, hang on, now you just opened up a whole new Pandora's box there. Who were you listening to in the 80s?
I started running in the summer of '83, and I had, like, we all used to make. Are you of the mixed tape era? Did you make mixed tapes growing up?
Yeah.
So Bruce Springsteen is my go-to person. I mean, it's hard for me to still believe that Born to Run is from 1975 because it sounds like such a, you know what I mean? It's
contemporary. It sounds contemporary. It's actually timeless.
It's timeless. So for me, the mixed tape that I started running to was side A was Greetings from Asbury Park. Classic. I don't know if you know the album, but really great anthems about, you sort of the romantic thing of the young kid, like facing the odds and sort of overcoming. And then side 2 was like really pop. It was the first Madonna album. So it was Holiday. And then Flashdance, the, really cheesy song of the album. The movie came out that summer, and a switch went off in my head, where it sort of made me want to go out and start sweating, to be honest. So that was my first mixtape that got me running.
And you're no mere sweater. You actually, I got to give you a plug here. You set the record for the longest distance run on a treadmill in a 24-hour period. Yeah, 153.76 miles. How much of that is just sickness? No, I'm just kidding.
It's true. I mean, I look at, I have to be honest, but I have to say a lot of it was, another sort of part of my story is, sort of overcoming the adversity I faced as a kid, and sort of needing, there's a lot of research lately too about orchid children, they call them, versus dandelions. So sport helped me become more of a quote unquote dandelion. So, the tenacity I had to run 6 marathons nonstop. But to me, it's something that reflects to me my ability to kind of face hardship, I have to be honest. In life and in sport.
So I saw an article written about you called, and it referred to the athletic brain. Right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure I know the article, but I can relate.
What is the athletic brain? What is the athletic brain?
Well, for me, I mean, when I wrote my book, my dad was a neurosurgeon and a neuroscientist, and he wrote a book called The Fabric of Mind. So even though I'm not a doctor, I grew up surrounded by neuroscience, and sort of when I wrote my book, my dad was a great consultant. So what I did in my book was I sort of divided, people talk about split brain. They often think of left brain, right brain. So they think the left brain is more, numbers and academic, and the right brain would be more creative. So what my dad and I did when I look at the athletic brain, I grew up as a tennis player, and my dad, Arthur Ashe, he had a quote like paralysis by analysis, for example.
Oh, that was him?
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was originally, to my knowledge, I credit that to Arthur Ashe. So overthinking as an athlete is the quickest way to choke and fumble, So when my dad and I would look at the athletic brain as a tennis player, we would look at the cerebral cortex, like the up brain, we would call it, the cerebrum, as being where you would strategize and think. And that's both the left cerebral hemisphere and the right cerebral hemisphere. So that would be the tennis player thinking, okay, I'm going to place the ball in the left corner because I see that my opponent is on the opposite side of the court. But then the other part of the athletic brain, which we would focus on the cerebellum, which is this little part of the brain in the back of the, it's tucked underneath. Cerebellum means little brain in Latin, and it has tons of neurons. It has more neurons than the big brain, the cerebrum. But your cerebellum is responsible for muscle memory and intuitive things that through practice, you pound into your head how to serve a tennis ball, how to hit a tennis ball without thinking.
How to ride a bike. Like when they say
that's the perfect example. Exactly. The things you never forget, it's like implicit memory. It's not declarative memory. Like, declarative stuff is like knowing what year the American Revolution happened, and those things you could answer on a test is more up brain. and the cerebellar stuff is more implicit, automatic. So to me, the ideal athletic brain, you can flip back and forth between both. You know what I mean? So you can problem solve. If I'm running in a Death Valley or something like that, I can think, oh, my electrolytes are low. I need to eat some pretzels and have a Gatorade or something like that. I can think that, but then the actual movement of just getting into the zone and without thinking is more cerebellar.
Yeah. Would you say the whole concept of flow is a cerebellum phenomena?
I would. Totally, yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about that because I'm very fascinated with that, and I think that can help us in our day-to-day life, living in flow.
Yep.
We're talking to Christopher Berglund. His book is The Athlete's Way. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll be back with more from Chris Berglund right after this. Don't go away. All right, we're back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're talking to Christopher Berglund, author of The Athlete's Way and blogger and athlete himself, and very, very insightful athlete, I might add. The cerebellum, Chris, as the seat of flow. I think you can I go as far as to say that it's the seat of flow.
I would.
So then flow is actually a neural phenomena. How can we tap into that at will? First of all, tell people what flow is, and then how can we tap into that at will?
Well, I can never say this person's name, but I
Csikszentmihalyi.
Csikszentmihalyi, exactly.
Yeah.
Mihaly, I sort of credit flow to being his the first person I know. I read a book in 1990 by him called Flow. And he would describe it, as being completely absorbed in what you're doing, losing yourself completely in what you're doing. And it's sort of innate, getting gratification from the process, being lost in something, whether it's rock climbing, making ceramics, painting, making music, listening to music, where you sort of become one with what you're doing, and the world and time sort of seem to dissolve.
That's beautiful. How do we tap into it?
Well, we were talking about the cerebellum before the break, and, I think of the cerebellum as being sort of a non-thinking brain. And so I think through practice, whatever you do, for me, I like jogging. That's when I get into the zone, and sort of, to me, jogging is meditative. But I think typically, whatever people are passionate about, again, whether it's rock climbing or kayaking or any, outdoor activities where, again, I think connecting to nature is often a big part of flow. But it can happen. For me, I really am fascinated with deconstructing when flow happens for me. And as a writer, I also tend to get into the zone. But for me, in writing, it's really specific. I do my best writing in the pre-dawn hours, like right when I've woken up. So I think there's a time, whether it's your chronobiology, I think people need to sort of play around with when they get into the zone and then tagging it and saying, okay, these were the kind of ingredients. This is where I was when it happened. It was this time of day. And then through practice, just tagging it when you feel like you're in the zone. And then, just making it a habit. And again, getting back to the cerebellum, I think, I feel like even so, for example, if I'm writing, which is very cerebral, when I click into a flow state, there's something about it that becomes automatic. First of all, my finger typing with touch typing without looking is a very cerebellar thing. So I'm able to write in bursts, when I'm in the zone, that almost seem like a cliche thing of being a conduit. It just sort of goes right through me, where I'm not overthinking, but the ideas are just flowing right through my fingers, to be honest. So, and in the flow state, your immune system you support your immune system in the flow state as well. I would think so. I don't know if I've written a lot about the vagus nerve. I wanted to start talking about that. Yeah, we talk about that a lot on this program. How does the vagus nerve fit into this whole thing and polyvagal theory and the parasympathetic nervous system? How does that fit into this? Well, for me, mind-body interventions, whether it's, again, yoga or just diaphragmatic breathing, things that that can be indexed by heart rate variability, to see that you have a robust parasympathetic response, which would be called the rest and digest or tend and befriend, which I'm sure you've talked about before, as opposed to fight or flight, so that you have that push-pull of your sympathetic nervous system revving you up, and then parasympathetic, sort of slowing you down. And basically, chronic inflammation is the big, it's linked to so many things, from depression to a whole wide range of illnesses. And again, cancer, I'm not a doctor. Aging. Cancer. I was going to say cancer, exactly. Age. I was, anything that can lower inflammation, I view as boosting the immune system. Again, I'm not a doctor, But would you agree with that as a sort of basic?
Absolutely. Inflammation is the calling card of the immune system. It's how we see the immune system. When the immune system's activated, inflammation is how it shows up. They're the same thing, essentially.
Yep.
So
and then this whole thing with this. Go ahead.
I was going to say there's this idea of defense and protection that's associated with a lack of flow, kind of. Do you think?
Yeah, I think. Well, it's a thin line for me between like the whole thing about cytokine storms, which has come up a lot with COVID lately. That term, I see it pops out when I read it because obviously inflammation has evolved to be protective, to help us, but then it backfires. So
chronically, when it's chronic.
Exactly, when it's chronic. And so, for example, a study, I do a lot of science reporting, so a really interesting study just came out about, in mice, it was a study in mice, but about strength training, like mice who became basically pumped up, had more muscle mass, had more robust T-cell response, and they had
I read that.
stronger immune systems, and again, it's way too early to say that lifting weights could benefit someone's immune response, and then to take it the next step further to think it might be help against COVID. But the research does. I mean, it can't hurt. We all know the benefits of weight strength training, and then again with the vagus nerve stuff and parasympathetic. Diet, just breathing is a very you can.
It's amazing.
One of my most popular blogs in the last couple of years. I wrote a blog about longer exhalation. Exhaling to me. Taking a long exhalation, my dad taught me this on the tennis court. He would say that it squirted out what he called vagus stuff, which is like literally slows your heart rate down, while you're exhaling. So if you take
the exhale.
Inhale,
the exhale is where you relax, is on the exhale.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
A lot of people just think, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
But I do think it's worth just a simple thing. I mean, people can breathe all different ways, and I'm not a sort of yoga expert, but for me, a 4 count in through my nose and then pursed lips like I'm blowing out candles on a birthday cake, like for 8 counts. I visualize that it's squirting out vagus stuff, vagus, and activating my vagus nerve in that way in the moment. But then again, like you were saying, over time you can strengthen, you can improve your vagal tone, which is linked to lower inflammation and as indexed by heart rate variability. So, do
you think there's a phenomenon of flaccid vagal? You said type of vagal tone. Is there vagal flaccidity that's associated with health issues?
I would think so. I mean, again, I think heart rate variability. Have you guys talked about that?
Yes, we have. Heart math and heart rate variability. Why don't you talk real quickly about heart rate variability from your perspective?
In between, like when you're, you have your regular heart rate per minute, beat, but in between beats, there's like interbeats, and you want to have like a fluctuation in there, which is heart rate variability, and so that variability again is linked to to well-being overall, psychological and physical well-being. So it's an index of someone who's going to do better off, and have a stronger immune system. And you can also do things in your daily life to improve your heart rate variability, like just moderate to vigorous physical exercise, mindfulness.
Visualizing good things, even just visualizing
good things, connecting to nature. One of my favorite, things, especially now in this time where we're self-isolating, is a sense of awe when you're like just see the Milky Way, when you're away from light pollution. That really benefits your nervous system and I would think your immune system.
Isn't that amazing? Just a sense of awe. And we've collectively, as a culture, we've lost the sense of awe.
It's true. And I mean, again, I'm from New York City, and I feel I'm lucky enough to have been able to get out of the city a lot. But I do think if you do have access to a place where you can feel, something that makes you feel small, to be honest, is actually good for you. It gets you out of your head, and then, creates a sort of an upward spiral at a physiological level too, I think.
So how are you do you live in New York City now?
No, I'm actually right now in Western Mass. I'm actually in the town. We've had a house in the Berkshires since I was a kid, so I'm lucky enough to be in the Western Mass right now. So what were you going to ask? How am I dealing with COVID?
Yeah, how do you living in an urban environment, especially New York City, where I am from New York, so I can say this, where it's a filthy toilet bowl, basically.
No,
I'm from there, so I can say it.
But I'm not gonna dispute.
No, it is
characterization.
I grew up in the 70s in New York, but I was there.
We're of the same era. I was born in New York in the late 60s myself. So it's been hard. I am a loner pretty much. So I have a 12-year-old daughter who lives in California now. So, but I don't live there. I don't really live there all the time. So I had to cancel I go out there 4 times a year. So that's been a real bummer because they're in Marin County, and that was one of the first places to lock down.
Do you think that the fact that New York City is the epicenter, in a way, an epicenter, at least in the United States, of infection, is related to the fact that it's such an anti-health place, such a filthy place?
It's really. I can't dispute that. I'm not an epidemiologist. I think, but I have to say the same things that I loved about New York are. It's just a COVID. It's just a nightmare when it comes to a pandemic because you're all just. It's a melting pot and everyone's crammed together.
Yeah. Chris, that was awesome. I wish we had more time, buddy. Thank you so much for your work. It's beautiful. PsychologyToday.com. Christopher Bergland, Bergland, and the book is The Athlete's Way. Chris, we'll talk again soon. Thank you so much, buddy. Cool. All right, that's all the time we have for today on The Bright Side. Thanks for listening. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to you later, folks. Bye for now.